Hello everyone and welcome to today's video on Tailwind CSS at Intellipaat. Tailwind CSS is a highly popular utility-first CSS framework designed to streamline the web development process. It offers a unique approach to style websites by providing an extensive set of utility classes that you can directly apply to your HTML elements. This eliminates the need for writing custom CSS, thus saving your time and effort. With Tailwind, you can easily create responsive and modern interfaces using predefined classes for spacing, typography, colors, flexbox grid, grid layouts, and many more. Its modular nature allows for easy customization, thus making it an ideal choice for projects of all sizes. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced developer, Tailwind CSS can greatly enhance your workflow and help you build visually appealing websites efficiently. Now, before we move on and learn more about Tailwind CSS, I request you that do not forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon for further updates. Now, let's begin our agenda. So we're going to start our session with what is Tailwind CSS. Then we will discuss an example that how Tailwind CSS differs from traditional CSS. Moving ahead, we will discuss the core concepts, and at the end we are going to conclude our session with a mini project with React.
So let's start with what is exactly Tailwind CSS. Actually, Tailwind CSS is a popular utility-first CSS-based framework that provides a set of predefined atomic-level utility classes. Unlike traditional CSS frameworks that come with pre-styled components, Tailwind CSS focuses on providing low-level utility classes that can be composed together to build a custom designs. The core philosophy of Tailwind CSS is to give developers complete control over their designs while maintaining a highly efficient workflow. By leveraging a large number of small, single-purpose utility classes, developers can rapidly build and customize their user interfaces without writing custom CSS classes. One of the main reasons why developers choose Tailwind CSS is its flexibility. With a wide range of utility classes available, developers can easily create unique designs and layout without being constrained by predefined styles. This empowers them to design interfaces that align with their specific project requirements and brand guidelines. Tailwind CSS also promotes a highly efficient development workflow. By utilizing utility classes, developers can quickly prototype and iterate on designs, thus reducing the need to write a custom CSS from the scratch. The framework's intuitive class naming systems allows for easy discovery and reuse of styles across the projects. Additionally, Tailwind CSS provides responsive design utilities, thus making it straightforward to create mobile-friendly and responsive layouts. Another significant advantage of Tailwind CSS is its performance optimization. Unlike traditional CSS frameworks that include a large amount of unused data, Tailwind CSS is a highly customizable and allowing developers to include only the necessary styles in their build. This results in smaller file sizes and faster loading times, thus enhancing the overall user experience. Overall, Tailwind CSS is a powerful tool for front-end developers who are seeking a highly customizable and efficient approach to building user interfaces. It's a utility-first approach where flexibility and performance optimizations make it a valuable framework in modern web development, thus enabling the developers to create visually appealing and responsive designs while maintaining a streamlined workflow. So guys, let's start with the installation process right now. So we will be installing Tailwind CSS, and let's see what are the required procedures for you to install Tailwind CSS. So guys, go to the Google and type Tailwind CSS docs. Okay. So while clicking this, you will be directed to the Tailwind CSS website. Just click on it. Okay guys, so here it says get started with Tailwind CSS. So here it's written installation. So for the installation, you can simply install by the Tailwind CLI. It is kind of a simplest and a fastest way to get up and running with the Tailwind CSS from the scratch. Okay, so the same process would happen. So you have to first type npm install the Tailwind CSS. Then you have to initialize the Tailwind CSS with this command. And then you have to configure your template paths. So you have to add all the paths of your template files in the tailwind config.js, where in the content section, you have to include src // **.html.js. Then you have to add the Tailwind directives to your CSS at the rate Tailwind base, Tailwind components, and Tailwind utilities. Then you have to start the CLI build process, okay? And then you can start using it in your HTML. If you are using HTML as one of the tool to develop the UI, but in this tutorial, I will be using React.js. If you are using a different framework to build your UI or the front end, just go on the framework guides. So guys, as you can see all over here, we have a lot of, you can say, web frameworks for the front end development. Like we have the Next.js, then we have something called React.js, and in this we can also find Laravel, we can also find Vite, we can also find AngularJS, we can find Phoenix, Meteor, Ember.js. So there are a lot of frameworks available. So if you are using a Next.js, just click on it and you will see the required process to do the installation of Tailwind CSS. But I will be using React, so I'm just gonna click on this. Okay. So first it says that you have to create your React project. Okay. npx create React app my project. Then you have to go to your project directory. Okay. Then there you have to install ./d Tailwind CSS, and then you have to initialize the Tailwind CSS. Then you have to configure your template paths, where you have to say module.exports equals to content src star.js, jsx, tsx. Then you have to add the Tailwind directives to your CSS. Then you have to start the build process. Then you can start using in your project. Okay. So I will show you the hands-on part of it, how am I doing it. You can follow the same process. And one thing you can say, it's written all over here. Create React app does not support custom post CSS configuration, and it is incompatible with many important tools in the post CSS ecosystem. So post CSS is a different kind of an ecosystem. Okay. So we will also look into what is the post CSS ecosystems like. So that's why it's highly recommended for you to use Vite or Parcel or Next.js, where instead of using just React.js, you can use Vite or Next.js to enjoy the post CSS ecosystem. Okay guys, I hope so it's pretty much clear to you. Okay guys, so right now I'm using, you can say, my text editor as VS Code. So in order to download that text editor, just go on the Google and type VS Code. So when you will be directed to the Visual Studio Code website, just right click on it. So you can see here it says download for Windows. Actually it detects what kind of operating system you are using. So suppose if you're using Mac, so it will say download for, you can say, Mac OS. Okay, so there's a lot of options, like you can say Mac OS Universal. So you have to download the stable version of these. Okay, so for the same I'm using Windows 64-bit, so I can easily download it for Windows. Right down from here, just right click on this and your download will be starting. Since I already have VS Code in my system, so I will just cancel the download, and the installation process of VS Code is very easy. Now guys, I have created a folder called installation and I am in my root folder called Tailwind. So in order to direct to this folder, I'm just gonna type cd and then installation. Now you can see I am inside my folder installation, and here I'm going to create my React app. So for creating the React app, I have already written the commands. That is the first step to create your React project. So just copy. Okay, you can copy from the Tailwind CSS website, the official docs which you are following. So just copy and paste this, and the name of the app will be my project, or you can give the name anything which you like. You can give the name such as, you can say, a website or a front-end project. Based on your choice, you can name the project. So it's gonna be creating our React app. So it will be downloading all the node modules, and there will be a lot of templates available in the React. So guys, we have done our step 1, which says creating a React app project. Okay, so as you can see all over here, when your all modules will be installed, it says npm run eject, npm run test, npm run build, and npm starts. So npm start is going to start our development server. Npm run build will bundle the app into static files for production. npm test is going to start the test runner, and npm run eject is going to remove this tool and copy the build dependencies. So you can just start, right now I'm in my another folder installation, and inside installation I have created another folder called my project. I will show you how. you can see there is a folder called my project. So you have to go inside this folder. So for going inside this folder, so it says cd my project. So as you can see here, we are in our folder my project, and here we are going to install our Tailwind CSS. So for installing the Tailwind CSS, I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, so just paste it. Now in this is going to install our Tailwind CSS. Now I'm using npm here, guys. Npm is a package manager. You can also use yarn. Okay, so that's also one of the most highly suggested ones. So I'm going with the npm. You can also go with the npm package manager. Okay, now guys, I have done our step 2. Now I'm going to initialize our Tailwind CSS, so which is going to add our config.js file. So I'm just going to copy it. Okay, and first let's clear the screen. Now if I just type npx tailwind css in it, so it's gonna initialize our Tailwind CSS. Okay, now we have a file called config.js. Let me show you guys. Okay, so as you can see all here, guys, we have tailwind.config.js file, and in the content we can see something is empty. So we have to fill it with what's written all over here. Okay, so it says src//js jsx tsx. Basically, JS means JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript. JSX is a React functional component. T stands for the TypeScript. Okay guys, so I'm gonna copy it. Now we're just gonna go all over here in our tailwind.config. Okay, and just copy and paste it. And don't forget to add these signs. Okay, the double quotations are very important. So we have added the path of src and the types of the files we are using it. Okay guys, this was our another step, which is basically our step 3. So guys, in the next step or the final step, we have added these directives: Tailwind base, Tailwind components, Tailwind utilities in our index.css. So now our step is complete, and now we can start our project by typing npm start. So basically our deployment server will be started at a localhost 3000. Now let's do something. Since I have removed the index.css file, so it's gonna show some error, but nothing to worry about. So I'm gonna remove some of the unnecessary boilerplate, and then we're gonna start editing our app. Okay, so this is basically the React application which shows in the initial one, and you can edit in the app.js file to save and reload. Let me show you some of the cool things in React. So guys, we are here in this file, and here just we have to go to app.js. Okay, just remove everything. Okay, and just create a functional component app, constant app, or EWP equals to. Okay, and here we are returning. So suppose if I start with div. Okay, let's create a div tag, and I say hello, how are you doing today? Okay guys, so it says some of the errors are here. Okay, so let's import React first. Okay, I hope so it should not show any error. Okay, we have done a little bit of error. Return should be just next to it. Now it seems pretty much fine. I hope so our error is resolved all over here. Okay, now as you can see, we have this index.js and index.css. Okay, so in the JS it's nothing, it's putting all those things. So it's actually importing import app from app. Okay, here you can see we have app.js file. It has React, it has React DOM, it has index.css. Okay, so guys, I hope so it's pretty much clear. So guys, I have created our app called const app. Okay, in which I'm saying hi, how are you doing? Now let us see how it is rendering. And one good thing I want to say to you, that React is a functional programming language, a kind of a reactive programming language, kind of also a class-based programming language. But these days we are avoiding to write class-based components, but still you can choose it, because in the earlier versions of React, the functional component had some missing properties, something related to hooks. So we were using the class components. But now we can just turn up to our functional components and create an amazing app with the React.js. Okay, now let us see how it's rendering, and let us see what's in our web browser. So guys, as you can see all over here, it's written, "Hi, how are you doing?" So the same way as you write, so it's the web browser is rendering automatically at the same point of time. So it's kind of a very good way of developing a UI. Now let's move on and understand some of the core concepts of Tailwind CSS. So guys, some of the core concepts includes utility first, responsive design, hover, focus and other states. Then we have dark modes, then adding base styles, extracting components, adding new utilities and functions and directives. So we'll look up each one of them one by one. And one important note I just wanted to give you that if you have not read prior about CSS, just have a prior idea about CSS, like what is padding is, what is a flex box. These are the small concepts which you are using with the CSS. So it helps us in the faster development of these process. So we'll see how Tailwind CSS is simplifying a developer's role. But before that, I just want you to know that before developing your website, I would always recommend you to check the Tailwind CSS docs. And with these docs, you can just refer back and forth and you can change your UI. Okay, you don't have to memorize everything because development is a process where you will be needing a lot of helps from a lot of other resources. So it's pretty fine if you're not able to remember anything, but you should always know from where you should pick up the resources. Now let's move on and understand the utility first concept. So it says that building complex components from a constrained set of primitive utilities. Okay, which says that you can build your complex component in a primitive set of utilities, means with the set existing utilities. Let me show you what it says. So suppose, as you can see all over here, I'll zoom in a bit. Okay, so just focus on this. So as you can see, there is one container, okay, and there is some background color associated with it. Then there is this, kind of a container in which you have this logo, okay, and there is some title written all over here, and you have a new message is some kind of a h1 tag, or not h1 tag, a paragraph written, you can say. Okay, so how to build up this? What will be the traditional concept or a traditional approach to build this? Suppose if there was no Tailwind CSS, then just using CSS, how would you have done it? So it says that you give a div tag, okay, and give some class name. Here the class name given is notification. Okay, similarly then you give another div tag, okay, just to accommodate this logo wrapper, okay, from where this container is going to come up. Then you have this image class, the image is the logo one. Okay, then you have this, the content, what should be the content. So you are putting some another div in which you have an h4 tag and a paragraph. So you can see how many divs are required all over here. The first div is for this one, second div is for this one, third div is for this logo wrapper, and fourth one, this is for title. Okay, and we have given the class name associated with it. So in the traditional CSS, what we generally do is we give a class name so that when we are creating the CSS file, we can use that class name and provide some attribute so we could get something UI like this. Okay, so it says that what will be the chat notification. Okay, this is the chat, this is this div. Okay, so it says that displays flex, maximum width is 24 rem, margin is 0 auto, padding is 1.5 rem, border radius is 0.5 rem, background color is /fff, and box shadow is applied. Okay, so these are some of the CSS properties which have been applied. Okay, so you can just Google it and you'll learn about each one of them. Okay, so don't worry about it, just copy and paste these things and see what are the effects you are changing in your UI. Now the next is the logo wrapper one, and it says the flex shrink is 0. There is no shrink all over here. Okay, now then we have the notification logo. Okay, then height is 3 rem, width is 3 rem. Okay, then in the content we are giving margin left 1.5 rem and padding is top. Then we have the chat notification title in which there is a color, there is a font size, there is a line height, and similarly a message in which the color is there, font size is there, and line height is there. So if we look one by one, so the last one would be pretty evident. This one was basically this, as you can see, and the title one, if I say chit chat, so it's a notification title. Okay, where the color is applied, the font size is applied, what should be the line height of the paragraph. Okay, now if we go to the logo logo is very important. What will the height and width of the logo? So it just goes by this 3rem to 3rem. It's kind of a square size. Okay. Then the notification one, the chat notification one. Okay, this one. So there is something display, max, padding, border radius. Okay, all of these things are there. Okay, for this one. So there is this container. Okay, so by mistakenly the above one is not included. Okay, so they are just saying this one. Okay, this is white. So if I would have used this container also, so I would have given one more div tag which is not present all over here. Okay, so this is basically this one where you have padding, margin, background color. So FF denotes white color. Basically we are talking about this container. Okay, so I hope so it's pretty clear to you what this traditional CSS is doing. Now if you look at the same code, okay, the same thing, the same application with the utility classes are nothing. We will see like we have created some class and we are not even giving the class name. This is a chat notification one. Okay, you can see this one. Okay, so there is padding 6, max width SM. Okay, so max width SM means for maximum width which was 1024 pixels. Okay, this is margin auto we have given. Then background white is there, and there was some border radius, so rounded XL. Then there is a box shadow, so it's applied the box shadow MD. Then we wanted the items to be centered, so I said flex item centered, and the space should be in between be 4, or space x equals to 4. Okay, so as you can see all over here, we are applying our these thing, okay, which we have written for this. As you can see, display, max width, margin, padding, border radius, background color, and box shadow. So what was the use of using the utility classes? Utility classes are nothing, just a name for like padding 6 is just like we have given padding equals to, you can say here we have 1.5 rem, so it's a name like P6. There are already a set of classes, utility classes have been created, which are going to provide you the same, kind of padding. So P6 is there, max width SM is there for the same thing. So the only use case which happened that we didn't have to create any other style file, okay, or any CSS file, so which reduce our work, and plus we are not writing the full word, okay, padding, max. So there are some short words written all over here. So using Tailwind CSS has removed this problem of, you can say there can be a complexity of, writing class name for every class. These things are gone, and your speed of development will become very faster. It's kind of very easy. Similarly, there's a flex shrink in which we have the image, okay, then we have the text XL, okay, font medium, text black, same for the chit chat one. Okay, you can see the text one, okay, font size, line height, color, okay, same thing have been applied. Okay, now we have the text gray 50, this is slate gray, and you have a new message. So as you can see, we have wrapped our code in just 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 to 9 lines of code, and there is no extra CSS we are writing. Okay, so this I feel so is very amazing. So you can see that the utility classes were flexbox and padding utilities, okay, flex shrink, zero, and P6. Max width and margin utilities we have used, the background color and border radius utilities we have used, the width and height, the space between, the font size. So if I click on each one of them, as you can see, flex is used to create a block level container. Okay, this is basically a block level container where you can see there will be some gap, in side by side of the whole of the container. So as you can see, flex one, and inline flex is used to create an inline flex container. So as you can see, the size is a little bit reduced. Okay, so you can see 1 2 3 is written, and if you want to use a grid type container, so you can use grid where you have multiple boxes like these. Okay, so these are some of the things. So you can look up to the documents and you can see where to use the same things which is CSS is providing. With the help of these, it would be very easy to develop your website. So you can see contents to create a phantom container. So this is kind of a phantom container. Okay, so you can see a lot of other things like to create a table, within a cell, and hidden is used to set an element display to none. So all those things are written all over here. You can check the documents. Okay, and we will be developing a website. So we will be seeing how we are using the Tailwind CSS. So a lot of these concepts will be pretty much clear. So I hope so you got in pretty much idea what are the utility classes, guys. So utility classes is something like this. Okay, these are the display utility. For block we have, you can say display block, Inline block, we have the properties display inline block, display inline flex, display inline flex. So these are the certain things which we can use based on the things, the UI basically which we want to develop. And as you can see all over here, you can see block, flow root, inline. So these are the certain utility classes which are available in Tailwind CSS. I hope so guys, you are pretty much aware of what exactly is utility classes. Now we'll move on and understand the responsive design. So guys, if I start about creating a responsive design, okay, so using a responsive utility variants to build adaptive user interfaces. So which is motto of responsive design by Tailwind CSS. It says that every utility class in Tailwind CSS can be applied conditionally at different breakpoints. So what are the breakpoints prefix? We have SM, we have MD, we have LG, we have XL, and we have 2XL. So what is the minimum width associated with SM? Is around 640 pixel. So if you have a media screen, so it says min width equals to 640 pixel. So which was the earlier way of writing a CSS, but with SM, it's reduced so much. Similarly, MD is 768 pixels, okay, LG is 1024 pixels, XL is 1280 pixels, and 2XL is 1536. Now, in order to add a utility class, but to only have to take it effect at a certain breakpoint, all you do is prefix. So what does it mean like this? Suppose if you have an image class, and if you're adding width 6 and medium width 32 and LG 48. So these are the basic prefixes we have to use it. Actually, this works for every utility class in the framework. Let us see one example so it will help us a little bit to understand. Now first let's understand what the UI is. Okay, so in this UI there is one container. Okay, in this container, in which one container is containing the image and another container we have this title, then we have another this h1 tag and some paragraph. Okay, so let us see what basically it's saying. So first let's create our container. So suppose this class is our container and I'm saying that max width should be medium. Medium means 768 pixel. It says that margin should be auto, means the space from all the sizes. Okay, it's auto adjusting based on the screen. Background should be white. Whole of the background is white except where the image is occupying. If you remove the image, the background will be white. Then there is a shadow. Then it says that overflow should be hidden. Okay, the text should not flow out or the image should not flow out. So overflow in this content is hidden. It's not applied. Then we have the medium max width of 2XL. Okay, so it says that now we have the maximum width of 2XL. 2XL means if you look back up, it's 1536 pixels. Okay, now we have applied our prefixes all over here. Then we have created one more class in which I'm saying MD equals flex. So if you see this MD is a breakpoint, okay, and the minimum width for MD is 768 pixels. So we are targeting that right now, and I've created a class with the flex string 0. Now as you can see, there is an image class where height is 48, width is full, object is cover. So breakpoint is MD H, okay, then full MD width 48. So this is our breakpoint, our CSS which we have applied. Then next we are giving the padding 8 and there is an uppercase tracking white text. Okay, then we have text SM. Okay, this is a breakpoint. Then text indigo 500, font semi bold, and then we are using the case study. Okay, as you can see, what is the text color is indigo, and we are applying our CSS all over here in this just one line. Then we have a link all over here. href is hashtag. Then we have class block empty1, margin top 1, text is LG. Okay, leading tight. Okay, then font medium, text black, and hover. We'll study about hover and other states a little bit later, but for right now you just take it as it is. Now as you can see how CSS is applied, and we are creating a pretty responsive design. The only problem which you might face right now to understand what are these things, so just read the docs very carefully. As I've told you, these are the breakpoints and what effect does it does when you apply it. Okay, so just copy and paste the same code. Okay, create a React app and you will see the differences if you start changing the things as given in the docs. What are the utility classes available in Tailwind CSS? When we are applying this, we will see a change. I hope so. This is pretty simple, to create this, and you would have got some idea how to create a responsive design. So if you click on this, something, things are going to change. Okay. Now let's understand what this is saying. So by default, the outer div is a display block. Okay. By adding the MD flex utility, it becomes display flex. Okay. I hope so, guys, you understood this, why this breakpoint was there. So which will fit on medium screens and larger. When the parent is a flex container, so we want to make sure that the image never shrinks. Okay. So this is one point to note. So we have written flex shrink equals to 0 to prevent shrinking on medium screens and larger. So technically it should have used like this flex shrink 0 since it would do nothing. So only matters is the breakpoint what we have added. So which gives us a good idea that the clear what is the class name of the screen. So guys, there's one more interesting thing that Tailwind CSS uses a mobile first approach. Okay. What does it mean that suppose where there are unprefixed utilities like uppercase, lowercase, and it takes effect on all the screen sizes. So when you are applying the Tailwind CSS, its effect is going to take only at the specified breakpoint or above. So that is one more thing, that it always uses a mobile first breakpoint system. So if you have used Bootstrap, so you would have some pretty much idea regarding what is a mobile first approach. Now, if you're targeting a mobile screen, okay, so this approach, is kind of pretty much surprising to most of the people who have used first time Tailwind CSS or who would have developed their website after using, CSS with the CSS they have created, and they are using Tailwind CSS to create their website. Believe me, they would have definitely a very smooth experience in creating this website. So what you need is to use the unprefixed version of a utility, not the SM. Okay. So it says that don't think of SM as on small screens, think it of as a small breakpoint. Okay. So it says that don't use SM to target mobile devices. So if I say div class SM text center, so this will only center a text on screen 60-40 pixels and wider, not on the small screen. So suppose if someone using a small screen mobile or something, so you might get a very different view. So your UI would not be so good. So what to do for the same? So it says that use unprefixed utilities to target the mobile and override them at larger breakpoints. Suppose you have written div class text center and SM text left. So this will center a text on the mobile and left align it to on the screen 640 and wider. Okay. So this is what this means. So these are very small things which you will be learning. So I would definitely advise you to thoroughly read the docs one and understand what are the examples they have given. And when you will be creating the website, your approach of developing a UI would be pretty much clear. Now, suppose if we are targeting a single breakpoint. So what does it mean? Suppose the Tailwind's breakpoints sometimes include only a minimum width. So you should not include a max width, which means that any utilities you add at a smaller breakpoint will also be applied at larger breakpoints. Okay, so you should always avoid this. This is one of the good notes they are written, that targeting a single breakpoint, you should not include a max width, which means any utilities you add at a smaller breakpoint will also be applied at the larger breakpoint. So if you want to apply a utility at only one breakpoint, the solution is to undo the utility at large sizes by adding another utility that counterattacks it. So this is one of the good solutions for targeting a single breakpoint. So I would literally recommend you to go for it. So guys, if we look at this example, we see that there is a background color green 500 and there is a breakpoint MD, okay, where the background changes to red. Then we have LG where the background turns green. So as you can see that here for SM breakpoint, we have not applied anything. So which is one of the solution which you could think about it. So whenever your MD breakpoint comes up, okay, which is 768 pixels, your background would be red. Otherwise, at all the times, your background would be green. And this was one of the solutions which you could do it. So in order to specify a background color for SM or the Excel background, you should always have this one thing in your mind, that you should always need to specify a utility that when it starts taking effect, not when it should stop. Okay. So that's a one thing we should always keep up in your mind, that you should always specify that if you read this line, it exactly says the same thing. It says that you only need to specify when a utility should start taking effect. Okay, so here the utility starts taking an effect at mdbg red. Okay, so not when to stop it. Okay, if this was a scenario, this happens, then the other utility starts at all over here. So otherwise, other case scenarios, it's all green. So that's one of the solutions. Okay, so if you are targeting just one single breakpoint, so you should always keep this thing in mind. And one of the thing, it says that the Tailwind's breakpoint should only include a min width and do not include a max width, which means that any utilities you add at a smaller breakpoint will also be applied at the larger breakpoints. So this was one of also the point which should be keeping in mind. So you can do and try some hit and trial kind of a thing on your text editor, and you would see that the effects you are getting are a little bit cohesive and complex, and it's not a good way to style your components. So that was few of the things written by the Tailwind CSS. Now, how you can customize your breakpoints, that's also one of the interesting thing. So suppose we have this file as you have seen in tailwind.config.js. So we have this called screen. So you can specify the screen size at tablet 640 pixels, laptop 1024 pixels, and desktop is 1280 pixels. So here what we are basically doing is we are specifying for what kind of device our media screen size should be. So if you want to learn more about it, you can just click on customizing breakpoint documentation, and you would have been directed to at this place, and you could just see all those things, what's written all over here. Okay, so you can just read it, and it's just like a reference point of view. You could change your modifications based on these things. Okay, now hope so you would have got an idea some of the good concepts which Tailwind CSS is giving based on what you have to do to keep in mind regarding the breakpoints. It was one of the most important thing in order to create a responsive web design. Now we will move on and understand the next concept, which is hover, focus, and other states. So if we see hover, focus, and other states, if you would have using CSS, you would be aware of what these terms are. So not even, then also not a problem. Just Google it. You'll get what kind of hover means. So suppose I'll give an example of hover. So suppose if I'm putting my cursor all over here in sign up, you can see the background color is changing to a little bit dark, kind of indigo color, and as the mouse goes away, it's basically showing you kind of a dull color or a light color. So that means hovering it. So if you're hovering over any component, okay, so something is changing or something is triggering, so you could give your CSS through hover. Okay, so basically it says that in the Tailwind CSS, in order to handle a responsive design, styling elements on hover and focus can be more accomplished by prefixing the utilities with the appropriate state variant. So what does it mean that? So it says that we have to prefix the utilities. So let us learn how we should prefix our utilities. So suppose in your website there is just one small component in which there is your email and there is a sign up button. Okay, so we created our form. Okay, so where I'm using the input class. Okay, so in the class I'm adding all these CSS. So border transparent, it says focus outline none, focus ring 2, focus ring purple, okay, focus border transparent. Okay, it's showing all those things. And there is a button class in which the background is purple, and hover, after hovering it, so it's changing it. So suppose if we just click on this, you can see the focus is changing on the border lines, and if we hover it, you can see the background color is changing. So this all CSS means the same thing. Okay, so guys, you can see the focus ring opacity, the focus ring purple, this is changing. Okay, so now these are the small things. And suppose if we write our email u@gmail.com, see the ring is gone. Okay, so and it shows that you have signed up. So there's a different ring is coming up, focus ring purple is coming up. So this is one of the things which you could do up with your UI. It's an amazing thing, and my only advice would be repeat. And my only advice would be to you is like understand all the CSS parts basically, and if you do hit and trial, like what are the new things, if you could see the docs, and you would be able to learn like what things to apply to give a very interactive responsive design. Okay, so in this we'll move on and we will understand about hover. If you add a hover prefix, then prefix to only apply a utility on hover. So suppose if you just go like this, so it's just applying at this portion only. Now, so by default, it says that the hover variant is enabled for the following core plugins, which is background color, background opacity, background color capacity, box shadows, opacity, rotate, scale, skew, text color, and text opacity. So these are some of the CSS. So hover is enabled for these of the following core plugins. Okay. So suppose in the variants, if you go and extend padding to hover, so you can control whether hover variants are enabled for a plugin variants. Okay, the section of your Tailwind config, just do something like this, as we have seen like what we are basically doing with tailwind.config.js file. And similarly, the focus, suppose if I just type something, you can see the focus is coming on the border lines. Okay, focus ring 2, focus ring blue. Okay, this is one of the things. So by default, the focus variant is enabled for the following: accessibility, background color, background opacity. So you could read all these things, you know. So it's pretty amazing where you can apply the focus thing, and with the prefixes, you know, it's pretty much easy. And now there's one more thing which is kind of interesting to read, that you can control whether focus variants are enabled for a plugin. And how to control that? Just go in your tailwind.config.js file and extend it to max height to focus. Similarly, we have an active. So active, what it does is, like, suppose if I just click on it, okay, so button class is bg green and active bg green. So when this button becomes active, okay, whenever we click it, so it's just color changes, it's not on hovering. Okay, this means it's active. So that was an active CSS means. Here you can see all over here that you can extend your active variant. Okay, so in which the background color is being sent to active. Now it also says that by default the active variant is not enabled for any core plugins. So it's actually not by default, so you have to add it up. So you can control whether active variants are enabled for a plugin or not. Just go in the tailwind.config.js and extend it to background color active, or any of the plugins which you want to give. So now there is another utility which we have is group hover. So if you need to style a child element when hovering a specific parent element, add the group class to the parent and add the group hover. Now let's see what it does mean. What does this prefix mean? So suppose we have this new project, create a new project from variety of starting templates. So it says that if you need to style a child element when hovering over a specific parent element, then you could add a group class. Okay, so suppose I'm going on this child class, but the effect is visible on the parent one also. So that means there is a group hover added. So in order to add the group hover, you could see that there's a group border indigo, hover bg white, hover shadow lg, and there is a border transparent. Then we have the class text indigo. Okay, text indigo 500. Okay, so these are the things. And when you want to apply the hover, group hover, okay, so you could just use the group keyword. Okay, so it says that the group is added all over here. Okay, so that was the one interesting thing which you could apply to your websites. It's pretty much simplifying your task. So what are the core plugins available? The background color, background opacity, border color, border opacity, box shadow, text color, text decoration. Okay, and if you want to control whether group hover variants are enabled for a plugin in the variant section, then just go extend. You could just type divide color group hover. So guys, for the group focus, as you can see, this variants just work like group hover. So as you will click all over here, so everything inside this container or the button is changing its color. Okay, so if you apply a class group and you say background yellow, focus background yellow 600, so it's just gonna do something like this. Then you could just give it as svg class, text white, group focus, text yellow. So as you can see, the group focus variant, what it's trying to say. Okay, so if you want to, by default, the group focus variant is also not enabled for any core plugins. So if you want to control it, just extend the background color to group focus on your tailwind.config.js file. Then you have focus within. Okay, so this prefix will only apply to a utility when that element or any of its descendants have focus. So say if we have form, we have text gray, focus within text gray. Okay, then we have the svg fill, then we have the input class focus ring gray. Okay, so what does it mean? Like suppose if I am saying that in this I just want to focus. Okay, So right now, as you can see, there is like the icon is not in focus. There is example is also like little bit on a lighter shade. So if you want to focus within to any element, now as soon as I'm start typing something, so the focus is coming inside. Okay, it's within the focus of the elements. So this utility is used whenever you want to use it. And if you want to see what are the core plugins available, you could say accessibility, background color, background opacity. Okay, you could just read all those things. Then if you want to control, same thing, you have to put scale focus within. Okay, in your tailwind.config.js file. Okay, this much is clear. I hope so, guys. Okay, just read the docs and follow what they are saying, which is a very pretty easier concepts to understand, because I think so most of you guys watching this video will be kind of aware with the traditional CSS, so this will not be a big problem to understand. Now by adding the focus visible prefix, okay, it could apply a utility when an element has a focus, but if the user is using a keyboard. So suppose if I say something like this, okay, so now this one is I'm just clicking by mouse, okay, but this one when I'm clicking by mouse is not showing anything. So whenever I'm acting or typing with a keyboard or entering with a keyboard, so this only, then only the focus visible is being applied. So as you hope so, the same thing, button is added first, focus string, then focus outline none, focus visible, and then ring 2. Okay, you are getting a ring 2. So that's one of the good thing by this. So there's a one note present all over here. So let's read it. It says that currently Chrome, Edge and Firefox support focus visible natively. So for your sufficient browser support, you should install and configure both Focus Visible JS Polyfill and Focus Visible Post CSS Polyfill. So these are some of the Post CSS plugin. You have to install it, if you want to use the ecosystem of Post CSS. So it also says this variant is not enabled for any plugin. So you have to add it up on your tailwind.config.js file by extending text decoration to focus visible. Similarly, we have motion save, we have this motion reduce. Okay, you could just read it, and there's a disabled. Okay, let's see what disabled is actually. So if you add disabled prefix to any utility, so suppose this button becomes disabled. So whenever I'm hovering over it, it's changing its color. So add the repeating. So adding the disabled prefix will be applied only to a utility when an element is disabled. Okay. So here it also says that the disabled variant is not enabled for any core plugins. The same thing, extend opacity disabled. Similarly, the visited and the unvisited link. Okay. If this is an unvisited link, okay. So let's go down there. So okay. So whenever the unvisited link is there, the color is different, and for visited link, the color is different. So this prefix is applied only to a utility when a link has been visited. So this also variant is not enabled for any core plugins. Okay, so you can just extend it text color visited. Okay, similarly checked and unchecked. Okay, so you want to check an option. Okay, just create an input type checkbox. You could add this prefix checked, so it's gonna check it up. Similarly, we have the first child. So adding the first child prefix to only apply a utility when the first child of its parent. This is mostly when the elements are being generated or some kind of a loop is there. So suppose we have this square. Okay. So now it's kind of you could say we are applying a utility when the first child is of its parent. Okay. And if you see some kind of elements being generated in a loop, so you could use this first child prefix. Okay, suppose div v for items in items. Okay, we are applying for loop, and class transform first rotate 45 and slash item. Okay. So it's also saying it's very important to note you should add any first utilities to the child element, not the parent element. Okay, please remember this thing. Okay, so by default it's also not a variant enabled for any core plugins. Okay, so this is the last child. Okay, so you want to apply its thing for all over here. We'll just add the last prefix to only apply a utility when it is the last child of its parent. Okay. So you could see that how we are trying to change things. The first becomes here, the last is changing all over here. Okay, so border width last. Okay, so you could just go in tailwind.config.js and just extend border width last. So if the odd child things you want to change. Okay, these basically things which you are doing in a loop. Some kind of repetition of elements are there, so just add the odd rotate. Okay, so here you could see last rotate, and you could see here the first rotate. So pretty simple. So here also you would see that even rotate 45. Okay, now we could also combine with the responsive prefixes. So as you can see all over here, button, hover, background color 500 green, and then is a SM breakpoint with hover background blue. Okay, so now these are some of the things. Okay, pretty easy, so just read it, and let's see. So as you can see, repeat. So as you can see, you can also generate custom variants utilities like variants group hover focus, banana color yellow, output color yellow, hover. You could see just this file if you read it. So it's just could be you're customizing your own variants. So if I just say how to create custom variants, okay, go into tailwind.config.js file and just type const plugin equals to require. Just add the Tailwind CSS / plugin, and in the plugin section just copy and paste these codes. Okay, so in this example what we basically are doing, we are basically adding a simple plugin that adds supports for the required pseudo class variant. Okay, so this is pretty interesting thing. So if you want to learn more about creating your custom variants, just click on the variant plugin documentation. Okay, and for a default variant reference you could just look at this. So there is accessibility, align contents, align items. Okay, these are some of the variants which are present. Okay, just read it once, so have an idea regarding when to use it. Okay, but this was basically up for our some of the core concepts, like one of the core concepts which I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, now we have studied basically, if I say, we studied about the utility classes fundamentals, we studied about the responsive design, and we also studied about some of the states like hover, focus, and some other states which were present. So states means what are the changes, what are the state of the UI is there when the user, or if I say when the client does or interacts with your website. Okay, so these states are very much responsible, and there are with the React, repeat, and with the React there is a lot of hooks are there. Basically use state manages all these states, so we could code it up something, and we could see these thing handling the data efficiently. Now I hope so guys you would have got a brief idea regarding Tailwind CSS and its the other things. Now let me show you some of the hands-on thing, so it would get you a little bit much more comfortable at how we are using Tailwind CSS. So guys, here we have a small React application which I have created. So as you can see, I have imported our CSS file, import app.css. Then I have created a function app, and I am returning. For wrapping up our app component, I have declared a div with a class name wrapper, and there is a class name logo where I have written a Tailwind CSS. Then there are list, install, and docs. Okay. Then there is another class name called hero with the h1 class name called header, which is written all over here. Tailwind CSS makes styling React components easier. And there is a button class named btn that says get started. Okay, now let's see what are the CSS we have applied. So for nav component, we have given display as flex, justify content space between, padding 16 pixel 13 pixel, and there is a color. Then for logo, we could see the font size 18 pixels, font weight bold, ul with the list style none. Okay, then for li, where margin left 16 pixels, cursor pointer. For hero class name, we have given display as flex, flex direction as column, align item center, and there's a margin top. Then for h1, we have the font size 36 pixels, text align center. Then we have the button with the background color black and with the color white, padding 10 pixels, width white. Okay. Now let us see how the UI is being designed, so you would get a brief idea what we are trying to create. And here only we will apply our Tailwind CSS, and you will see that how in a small React Mini application you could find out that using Tailwind CSS can really simplify your workflow. So guys, as you can see, there is a container written with the Tailwind CSS. This is basically our nav component, and here we have the list, install, and docs. Okay, so whenever you are putting your cursor all over here, see how it's changing. Now here is a h1 tag which is written saying Tailwind CSS makes styling React components easier. then it's a button which says get started. Okay, so guys, you would have got a brief idea that what CSS we are literally trying to apply. The same thing which we are going to do is with, you can say, Tailwind CSS. Let's see how it is done. So guys, as you can see all over here, we have our function app. There is another tag called div tag, in which we have flex, flex column, item center, margin top 16, and h1 tag with text 4xl, text center, and it says Tailwind CSS makes styling React components easier. Now there is a button class name with background black, padding 2.5, width fit, margin top. The same things what we have written all over here. So it was pretty much simple to do. Now I have not added a nav tag all over here. So what you can do guys, like for if you're creating a website at a good scale, then you should import your components in the app. Okay, so for the same, if we have created the nav component, see, you could see earlier that we had this nav component in which there was install and docs written. Okay, and at the left it was written Tailwind CSS. You can make that as a component and you can just import that component all over here as slash navbar. Okay, and just close it. Okay, so that would just do your work pretty well. Okay, since this is not a component present, so we'll just delete it and we'll see some of the less thing. But as earlier stated, suppose I'll re-show you the CSS file. So for logo, you could see that there is a font size, font weight, there's a display flex, space between, padding, margin top, display flex, all these things are written all over here. Okay, so let's see, flex column, flex column, item center, margin, text is 4xl, means text is center align. Okay, so this is being applied the same thing which is all over here. Let me show you. So we have the display flex direction, align items top. Okay, h1 tag with font size 36 and text align center. Okay, so you could see all those things. And then there is a button. Okay, button with background black, text white, padding 2.5 with fit, margin top. So if you go for the button CSS, you would find out there is a background color white, padding 10 pixels, width, fit content, and margin top. So we have applied the Tailwind CSS to the same. Okay, so this was basically an sample application. So let me show you how the UI looks right now. So okay guys, so now you can see like we have applied some of this Tailwind CSS properties all over here, and some of the UI has been changed a little bit. Okay, so now what we have to do here guys is that we have to add a navbar component all over here. We could be easily done, but the things where CSS were applied like this text. Okay, so this button. Okay, so these were some of the things which was pretty easier to take off. The only thing that matters right now all over here, that you should be able to understand what kind of CSS properties you want to apply or to target your elements. Okay, so you have to get in touch with the docs, develop as much application as you can. So this was just a very simple example. I hope so you would have got a brief overview like how to use Tailwind CSS. Okay, so you can see the utility class. Then I have not added the breakpoints all over here, but still we could add it up. And there were a very good number of examples present in the docs, so you could refer it to that. So there are good number of examples present in your docs. There's a good huge theory how to apply your CSS. So that would be my personal advice to you. First read it, then start using it in your development. And I'm pretty sure that you would feel that there is a lot of improvement in your development workflow. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope so you would have enjoyed our today's video on Tailwind CSS.
Just a quick info guys, Intellipaat offers full stack web developer course in collaboration with E&ICT Academy IIT Guwahati. Through this course, you can learn everything from front-end web development to back-end web development from esteemed IIT Guwahati faculties and industry experts. With this course, we have already helped thousands of professionals in successful career transition. You can check out their testimonials on our Achievers channel, whose link is given in the description below. Without a doubt, this course can set your career to new heights. So visit the course page link given below in the description and take a first step towards career growth in the field of web development.